And I emailed it back. I said, that doesn't work for us. We'd be happy to receive an assistant city manager, because we had Lori Houston was here, and she did a great job. But that's out of my control. And because we've had this booked for a long time. And so I don't know what's going to happen. She sent back to me, so I'll get back in touch with you. But maybe the city manager will be here, or someone from his office, I hope. If not, who wants to speak on the 8th?
Oh, guys.
We'll hear from the Klauses on their trip to Normandy.
I second that.
They're gone that week.
I would too.
We also want to do something in honor of our veterans on the 8th as well. So if you have pictures or tributes to members of your family, bring them, and we'll have them out here. And we will do something special for Veterans Day that day. So maybe it'll be a whole day. When I hear back from the city manager's office, I'll go into, if they're not sending somebody, we'll go into recovery mode and get something on veterans, get a veteran in here to speak to us. Birthday lunch here, November 15th. Junior is preparing Thanksgiving lunch. And that's on the 15th. And then we have a trip scheduled to the Holocaust Museum on November 22nd. And the sign up is out there, so be sure to sign up for that. And then on the 29th, there's no keys because it's the day after Thanksgiving. So make sure that you sign up for things that are out there, and this information is available as well. So, and we also have, we're continuing to collect Christmas money, Christmas gifts for our household staff. Or what they told me recently is now they are called the hospitality staff.
Oh, that's nice.
They're no longer called the household staff. So we want to respect that. And that's a better sounding. So today we have Connie Jones with us. Does everybody know who Connie is? Well, just stand up, Connie, and come up here. You probably, if you have seen Connie, come up or get ready. If you have seen Connie on a Sunday morning, you've probably seen her 2 grandkids with her. And she's also in the bell choir. So she's kind of a quiet, under the radar kind of person, I think. But she came to me and shared with me her experience with shingles. And she felt very compelled to speak to us about that. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. And we're glad you're with us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Pastor Joe. It is wonderful to be here with you today. I am so glad to be here. It was my thinking during this past year that by the time I get to be with the Keys, that I get to talk with them about this eye situation, that my eye will be healed as much as possible, it'll be looking as good as possible by then. And well, it is, and here I am. All right, I see a lot of familiar faces here, and thank you for wanting to come and hear this presentation. I'd like to start, please, by quoting from Deuteronomy 10, verses 12 and 13, and it goes like this. What does the Lord require of thee, O Israelite, but to fear the Lord, to walk in his ways, to love him with all your heart, to serve him with all your might, and to obey his statutes and ordinances given to you for your own good. Now, it doesn't take much of a stretch of imagination to realize that one's own name can go in the place of Israelite. What does the Lord require of thee, Connie, but to fear the Lord, to walk in his ways, to love him with all your heart, to serve him with all your might, and to obey his statutes and ordinances given to you for your own good. Seems to me that those words should be either prefaced with or maybe concluded with, no matter what. No matter what does the Lord require of thee? This eye catastrophe was bad, really bad, and I'm going to tell you about it. But I know that there are far, far worse things that could have happened. My right eye could have been affected, for example, and I could be standing here blind. I think the worst thing is the loss of one's own child or grandchild. But there is nothing that should stand in the way of the recognition of and the doing of what God wants. Well, one Saturday morning in August of 2023, the last Saturday of that month, I awakened with pain in my left eye. It wasn't so bad that I couldn't get up and function, and besides, I had the care of my 2 grandchildren, the ones I bring to church. I had them with me that weekend like I normally do. So fine, I thought to myself, okay, if my eye still hurts on Monday morning, then I'll go to the eye doctor. Well, Monday morning came, and my eye was still hurting. I went to the eye doctor, and he said, you've got an infection in your eye, and you need to go see an ophthalmologist. I went straight to the ophthalmologist's office, and she said, you've got a serious infection in your eye, and you need to go to the ER immediately. What? I'm not the kind to run off to the ER. And besides, the coming Wednesday evening would be the first rehearsal of the bell choir after the summer break, and I love the bell choir, and I need the rehearsing, so I wanted to get to that rehearsal. Okay, for the next 2 days, every 4 or 5 hours, I took a couple of Tylenol to deal with the pain, and on Wednesday evening, I was at that 5:30 bell choir rehearsal. I had trouble reading the music, and I thought to myself, Connie, you better go to the ER in the morning, find out what's going on with this eye. Well, the next morning, that decision was greatly enhanced when I awakened feeling like my eye was swelling off my face. It was so puffy, I knew it wanted to leave my face. I got a white washcloth and dampened it with cool water and put it on my eye, and then I called my best friend and neighbor, Agnes. Agnes is with us today, and said, Agnes, please get me to the ER immediately. She did. We checked into the ER. It was a busy place, and then sat down to await our turn. The wait was not very long because all of a sudden I was attacked. I mean, it felt like there was fire, flames coming out of my head. Now, I know when we hear something like that, we Christians think of the apostles and the fire that appeared above their heads, and we celebrate that as Pentecost, when all of a sudden they could speak different languages and carry the news of the gospel to other countries. I sincerely hope that the flames that the apostles experienced were staying above their heads, not coming out of their heads, because that hurt. Oh, it really hurt, and I screamed. Now that I'm telling you about it, I feel embarrassed because I'm not one to make a public spectacle of myself like that. In my pain, I remember a medical person coming and putting an ice pack on my head, and then Agnes and I were led away to the exam room. At this point, I'd like to give you some pictures to pass around. There are 7 pictures, and they're numbered. And on the back of each one, there's a little explanation about that picture. These will show the progress of the disease and also a couple of major setbacks. Well, back to the hospital. I was admitted, and I spent a week, that whole first week of September of last year, in the hospital. And I got an MRI and 3 CAT scans, and the diagnosis was, yes, you've got shingles on the surface of your eye. All right, well, There's nothing to be done about it except to endure it, take medicine for it, and antibiotics, anti-inflammatory medicine, and 6 other kinds of medicine. So when Agnes drove me home, I asked her to stay for a little while and help me make a chart so I would know when to take all those medicines. The antibiotics were 4 times a day, some of the others were 3 times a day, some twice a day, and a couple of those medicines once a day. All right, well, in the next couple of weeks, I saw the hospital ophthalmologist twice, and both times I was told, yes, you've got shingles on your eye, and you're just going to have to put up with it. They will go away. Okay, except come a Thursday morning towards the end of September, I was sitting on my couch in my living room, and all of a sudden, I was attacked again with that fiery business of flames coming out of my head. This time I formed my own ice pack and just moaned and groaned my way through it. Okay. But the next morning, another one of those attacks. This time, I called Agnes, and I said, please, Agnes, get me to the ER immediately. She did. I was admitted, and I spent the whole first week of October of 2023 in the hospital. Okay. This time I had 2 MRIs and another couple of CAT scans. All right, well, the humorous thing, perhaps, about being in the hospital was that I had not been a patient in a hospital for 49 years. Truth, on a stack of Bibles, truth, okay? My son John was 49 years old, and since I had given birth to him, I just had not been a hospital patient. So every once in a while, a medical person or even a doctor would walk into my room and start by saying, now, the last time that you were in the hospital, as if it were something recent, and I would say, you mean 49 years ago? They would look kind of surprised. Okay. Well, I hated being in the hospital. Made the best of it, but I hated it. The only way the doctor would agree to let me go home was if I would agree to wear a PICC. That's P-I-C-C, okay? Stands for peripherally, I have trouble saying that word, peripherally inserted central catheter, okay? Now, this contraption looked like a sling that I had to wear close to my body, and it had what you would call a toddler-sized play plastic football. It was a clear plastic football with the antibiotic liquid in it. Okay, and that went into a rubber tube and into a needle in the crook of my arm. That antibiotic fluid football had to be changed out daily. Again, thank goodness for Agnes, because I was so squeamish about doing that. She helped me with that. And I had to wear that thing for 6 weeks, 24/7. Okay. Whew. Well, during those 6 weeks, I did not attend church. And that was unusual for me, because I'm an every Sunday kind of person. But with that thing on, I just didn't. Yet I still had my grandchildren on the weekends. Their parents both work on the weekends, and so I get to keep them. Okay? Every Sunday morning, I would rejoice that another week had passed and that eventually that 6 weeks would be over. And every Sunday morning, the children and I played church. Now, I'm here to tell you that 7-year-old Zana can actually give a sermon. She was the pastor every Sunday, and she found different things to say, too. Okay? I remember one Sunday morning she said, you see that ceiling light on here in our living room? Well, that's like God's love shining all over us. The 6 weeks were made a lot more bearable by the fact that I had some visits from people in this church. The first to come was Pastor Scott, and when he came, he brought this poster board here, and it's got the signatures and the messages from the most recent deacons and elders meeting. And then he also brought a gift bag, and it had this handsome plaque. It's double-sided, folks. It says, "Be strong and courageous," and it's quoting Joshua 1:9. "Be not afraid, be not dismayed, for the Lord is with you wherever you go." Okay? And then the next to come to visit was Rebecca Sweet. And you know, she's our children's activities director here at church. Okay? She brought a lot of yummy food items, and we had a very good visit, getting to know each other a little better. And then Nancy Geevers, and at that time she was a fellow Sunday school member. Also, she's a member of our bell choir, right, Suzanne? And she was representing the women of the church. And so she brought this beautiful prayer shawl. You know, Kay Weber and her group make these prayer shawls. And I just think it's so pretty the way the colors blend together, kind of like a painting. You know? So the mailbox often contained a get well card or thinking of you card, and most often, the majority of the cards coming were from people in this church. I kept a bag of the cards, and I reached into that bag and drew one out at random, okay? And it happens to say, "Sending healing thoughts your way." And it's signed by Meredith Park. Okay? Now, there were offers of food from the church, but those I refused because I could still cook. And besides, Agnes is a wonderful cook. And we often shared meals together. Okay? When I was able to return to going to deacons' meetings, the monthly meeting, you know, I missed September, I missed October, but November, Elder Holly Youngquist came and gave me a ride to the meeting, okay? And then fellow deacon Judy Kruger gave me a ride home, okay? Sorry to say, no bell choir, though, because I just couldn't read the music well enough. Okay, well, 1 week before Thanksgiving of last year, the Thursday before Thanksgiving, it was proven to me at the ophthalmologist's office that I had no vision left in my eye. And further testing showed that the shingles had not stayed on the surface of my eye. They had gone into the retina, which actually I was told that a couple of weeks earlier, you know, and even at that time there was talk of you might have to have the shingles and your eyeball surgically removed. I didn't want to hear that kind of talk, okay? But now, 1 week before Thanksgiving, yes, the shingles had gone from the surface to the retina to the optic nerve, and there was fear that from there they would progress into my brain. So I was strongly urged, was highly recommended to me, that I have the surgery for removing my eyeball. Well, the Tuesday night before Thanksgiving, my daughter Diana, who lives in Uvalde, my middle daughter, came and stayed overnight with me so that early the next morning, we were at Christus Medical Center in Stone Oak, and the dastardly deed was done. Okay? You would think, folks, that something as complicated and as involved as removing a person's eyeball would require a hospital stay. But no, the operation was early that morning. That afternoon, I was back home. Well, Diana stayed overnight with me again, but the next morning, she wanted to get back to her husband and her mother-in-law there in Uvalde for Thanksgiving Day. And besides, I was supposed to rest and sleep as much as possible on that day. That didn't happen. I had lots of phone calls and texts from family and friends, and I welcomed that because guess what? I was relieved. I was so relieved that it seemed like the worst was over. You know, the die was cast, the deed was done, it is what it is, and now we can progress. We can go forward from here. So I had no visitors, which made it, after Diana left, no visitors until that evening, late that evening when Agnes came with a big plate of Thanksgiving food from her son's house where she had spent the day. But during the day, I had no visitors, which kind of made it the strangest Thanksgiving I ever had. But phone calls and texts, and there I was feeling good. My optimism was running high. Surely by Christmas, a whole month away, my eye would be healed and I would be able to be measured and fitted for the fake eyeball. All right, so the day after Thanksgiving, I did what I always do the day after Thanksgiving. I decorated for Christmas. Well, sorry to tell you that when Christmas came, my eye was not deemed healed enough to be measured and fitted for the new eyeball that was coming. Now, folks, it's not an eyeball. I know we call it that, but it's not a ball, all right? It is like a large plastic contact lens, okay? And it looks like this, okay? This is what's called the conformer lens. As you can see, there's no painting on it, okay? It's just clear plastic, and it's thick, and it's large, okay? And it just fits right into the eye, okay? And a person has to wear the conformer lens for a few weeks to make sure that the eye will be accepting of the final product. Okay, so it was not until mid-February that I was able to get this gizmo, okay? In the meantime, whenever I answered the door to my apartment, or anytime I went anywhere out of my apartment, to the mailboxes, to the dumpster, to church, wherever I went, I wore sunglasses. Okay, you know, there was nothing there, and so I wore sunglasses. My daughter, Bonnie, my oldest daughter, who lives in Pearland, FedExed me 3 pairs of fashionable sunglasses. Yeah. And then I got an anonymous FedEx package that had a big selection of sassy-looking eye patches, and I found out later that came from Kathy Timberlake, okay? So, all right, mid-February, that's when I got to have the conformer lens put in my eye. It wouldn't stay in. It would just fall out. No provocation from me. I wasn't rubbing my eye, making it fall out. It would just fall out. Agnes would help me put it back in because, again, ooh, I was squeamish about that, okay? Well, the surgeon told me that my eye had developed ectopia. That's E-C-T-O-P-I-A, ectopia. And it means a turning out of the lower lid. So my eye would not retain this thing. More surgery needed. This time the surgery was done in the surgeon's office, and even though my eye was numbed as much as possible, and by the way, back when I was in the hospital that week there in October, they did give me 2 injections of antibiotics into my eye. I don't recommend that, but you know, it needed to be done, okay? It needed to be done, and it hurt so badly. And again, now in the surgeon's office, getting this ectopia fixed, oh boy. I just told myself, this is what has to be done. This is what needs to take place, Connie, so grin and bear it. And I grinned and bore it, okay? All right, so now I was able to wear the conformer lens. Well, May 1st, okay, had an appointment with the technician, lady named Jean Thompson, and she made sure that everything was okay now about getting what would be my real lens. I'll call it a lens instead of an eyeball, all right? Now, she said it wouldn't be ready for me, though, until the end of May. Well, okay, another month, wearing sunglasses, you know. During that month of May, it became obvious that my eye had now developed ptosis, P-T-O-S-I-S, which means a drooping of the lower, or the upper, a drooping of the upper eyelid. Oh, and I was told, you know what? You need to have more surgery. It would be the 3rd and final surgery, okay? But anyway, going through the month of May, the drooping eyelids, still wearing the conformer lens, still wearing sunglasses, and sometimes I felt so silly coming into church wearing sunglasses. It might be raining outside, it might be cloudy. There I was wearing my sunglasses. My oldest granddaughter got married at the end of March 23rd. And I had so hoped, since that wedding date had been set for several months, that by March 23rd I would be all okay. Well, no, I had that surgery for the ectopia on March 15th, and March 23rd I was still bruised. The eye area was discolored, swollen, okay? Oh, okay, so anyway, at her wedding, I wore sunglasses, and when it was a 6 o'clock in the evening wedding, and the reception went on until late in the night, but in all pictures that were taken, there I am with my sunglasses on. All right, well, let's go back to May. End of May, I'm going to the technician's office, and I'm joyfully expecting that, now at least I'll have the real lens. I know the ptosis will still have to be fixed, but at least I'll have my eye. I'll look normal, I'll look normal. Well, the color didn't quite match. It was just a shade off. Not bad, but it was a shade off, not really matching. The technician saw my distress about that, my disappointment, and quickly told me, there can be a color adjustment, Connie. Don't worry. I can make it match much better. I can do that for you. Great. However, that was the day before she was going to a medical convention and some vacation time after that. So she told me, end of June. You come back end of June and I'll fix it for you. Fine. Kept wearing the sunglasses, folks, I've got two eyes that don't quite match. I've got the ptosis. But we're getting there. We're getting there, okay? July 17th was the third and final surgery to fix my eye. My surgeon is Dr. Randy Moffrey, and he only operates 2 days a week. July 17th was the first hole that he had in his calendar. So that morning, Agnes, not my daughter Diana, but Agnes drove me to the Christus Medical Center at Stone Oak, and the ptosis was fixed, and the ectopia was tweaked, and my good new fake eyeball lens was put back in. I was good to go. Well, I want to tell you about something that was an amazing experience that happened twice to me. All right? That morning, same as back in November when I had my eyeball removed, the same thing happened. I felt like as I was on the gurney being taken to the operating room, there were angels surrounding me. Not the medical staff. Yes, they were there, but I'm talking, I felt like there were angels. I didn't see angels. It was a manifestation, a feeling that I was safe, that I was protected, I was secure, I was okay. And I know that it was because of all the prayers and the well wishes that I had received from people about the surgery that I was now going to have. That Sunday before July 17th, I cannot tell you how many people came up to me and said, thinking about you for Wednesday. Hope it all goes well on Wednesday. I'll be praying for you for your Wednesday operation. People, that means so much because there I knew I had angels all around me, like in November and again in July. Well, all right. So back to the recovery room, and a nurse asks me if I want to use the bathroom. I did, okay? And I risked looking in the mirror as I went into the restroom, and my first thought was, oh, it's going to be okay. My second thought was, oh no, it's swollen again. My third immediate thought was, doofus, you just had surgery. Of course it's swollen. Okay. All right, well, there are a couple of things I want to leave you with, okay? All right, and the first, I know you're expecting this, okay? This is predictable, all right? And that is, go get your shingles vaccination if you haven't already done it. It's a two-parter. You get a shot 1 month, and then 2 months later, you get the other shot. I had this done back in January and March. Of course, I should have had it done, well over a year ago, but I didn't, and guess what happened? I was healthy before this, and yet this happened, folks. And God forbid that it should happen to you. When shingles attack a person's eye, they're supposed to stay on the surface of the eye and go away. Well, it didn't. It didn't. So please, if you haven't got your shingles vaccination, seriously, go get it. Don't let this possibility happen to you. Okay. Now, yes, ma'am?
In your recovery, about the brain damage, because I'm also suffering from that too, it's very hard. Did they release, like, it wouldn't spread to the neurological systems in your brain?
I'm sorry.
The neurological systems, because you mentioned earlier
Right.
that it had traveled and you may have possible brain damage from
Okay.
that.
No, but I'm glad you mentioned the word neurological because I was leaving out something I did want to talk about, so thank you. Well, that was the idea that it would, I don't know, maybe make me a vegetable. I don't know. Okay, but neurological, that reminds me, and thank you, that people, that Thanksgiving of last year, you know, I was counting my blessings. I was so thankful for the fact that my right eye was completely unaffected. And because it's my vision distance eye, I can drive. Okay, you know, thank God for that. That's the good news. The bad news was I was experiencing neuralgia, okay, which is a disturbance of the nerves on that side of my head above my left eye, okay? And when I told the doctor about it, he said, oh, you're having raging neuralgia, which made me smile because I thought of it to the tune of Waltzing Matilda. Raging neuralgia, raging neuralgia. See, Bernita, I did sing, okay? Anyway, to this day, I'm sorry to say, I still am experiencing the neuralgia, but it's getting better, it's getting less. The surgeon said it could take up to 2 years to go away, but it's like a low-grade, pin-pricking annoyance, you know, that's just there. I think of the nerves standing straight up, you know, lie down, calm down, okay? Anyway, thank you for reminding me about that. The other thing I wanted to say here is, and this is predictable too, because I know you know this church, the people here, it's the best. It's the best. There are so many churches to which we could go, but I'm glad we are in this one. People, I was a pastor's wife for 25 years until we had an amicable divorce. And in all the 8 churches that he served during the time that we were married, and all the churches that I grew up in, I never, ever experienced or felt like there was the level of caring for others and for people beyond our doors that I know is in this church. It's tremendous. So, really, the best church in the world, and here we are. I'm going to put in a plug for Agnes's church, though, because I can't help that. Calvary Baptist is her church, okay? It's the second best. It's the second best. And the big reason I'm saying that right now is that just last evening, her church sponsored a Halloween event for any children that wanted to come, okay? And they had a petting zoo, they had a little train that ran around, they had jumping tents, whatever. They had trunk or treat. They had hot dogs and hamburgers and nachos. And, you know, it was all free to the public. Agnes has told me that her pastor loves kids, and he also loves food, you said, right? And he puts those events together for the children and the young people of that church. So, yeah, Calvary Baptist, second best. First Presbyterian, best. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I'd like to leave you, please, by quoting Psalm 103, verses 1 through 5, and it goes like this. Praise the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, praise his holy name, and forget not all his benefits, who forgives you of all your iniquities, who heals you of all your diseases, who redeems your life from the pit, who crowns your life with goodness and mercy, and who gives you love all your days so that your strength is renewed like the eagles. So I'm going to ask, please, first of all, I want to say thank you for listening, and thank you. And then I want to ask for questions, okay, and Pastor
And
Joe.
if you have a question, I'll give you the mic so everybody can hear it. And we're live streaming as well.
It's not a question.
Okay.
Connie, I want to tell you, I know what you've been through, and I'm so sorry you've had to go through it.
Well,
15 years ago, I had shingles in my eye in Michigan. And I want everybody to know, we've all had pain. There's all kinds of pain. There is nothing like shingles in your eye. It's beyond description, and I just want everybody to realize I can say that because you're not going to, but I'm telling everybody what you've gone through has been painful beyond belief. And thank you so much for coming and sharing. And if there's anybody that hasn't had the shots,
right.
they
Yeah.
hadn't come out with it when I had mine, when it was in my eyes. So anyway, thank you for coming, Connie.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you. We got through it. We got through it with God's help.
Any other questions?
Yes, you say that you had 2 shingle shots. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
the new shingle shot?
Well, whatever it was, they gave me in January, and then the other one
This
in
year.
March, so probably the new ones, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to have to check my record because I think they only gave me 1.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
With COVID, I know you could get 1 or you could get 2, but with shingles, I think you're supposed to get 2. I think.
I better check out the
Okay.
form.
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
The initial shot they came out with well over 10 years ago, I think now,
Really?
was a single shot.
Really?
But then, 3 years ago or so, they started to say, if you had that one, you need to have the new 2-part one. So, some of us had a shot a long time ago,
Interesting. Thank you,
not as
Nancy.
good as the new.
I was asking my primary care doctor about the shingles shot, and she said, have you had chicken pox? And I said, oh, believe it or not, I taught for 38 years, and my daughter had a terrible case of chicken pox. She looked like a monster. She was all swollen and everything. And I said, but I don't think I had chicken pox. And my doctor said, but at your age, if you have chicken pox, it's fatal. So she had a test that I took, and I have not had chicken pox. And so I went to the Metropolitan Clinic with the children and had my chicken pox shot.
Oh, interesting.
So
Interesting.
She said I didn't need to have my shingle shot. But my daughter is 45, and I have seen friends here at church as they've gotten older that have had it near their ear, near their eye, like all over, so they can't wear clothing and everything. And so I've been urging my daughter to see if she can have it, because shingles is just so painful wherever you have it.
Other questions? Well, thank you, Connie, for being
Thank you.
with us.
Thank you, folks. Thank you very much.
And let me pray. Let me pray for you,
Oh,
thankful
well, and for all of us,
for
please.
what God has done.
For everybody.
Thank you, Lord, for Connie, for her being anxious about coming and sharing with us her experience. And maybe we squirmed a bit, but we're thankful for her desire to reach out and let people know about the need to guard against shingles. Thank you that you brought her through. Thank you for the healing that she has experienced. Continue to lift her up for healing as well, and that you would be with her, and that your grace and peace would carry her through. And we're just thankful for her and for her being with us today. Father, we pray that you would be with us for our meal. We ask your blessing on the food we will share together. for those who have prepared it and for those that will serve it, and give us sweet fellowship here around these tables. And thank you for the opportunity that we have each week to come together and to gather together and to celebrate you together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.